And then Mark will go ahead and start us out with prayer.
Yeah. Father, Son, and Spirit, we are so humbled and grateful to receive and live in your love. Thank you, too, for the amazing blessing and responsibility of being involved in camp and mission ministry. It is so cool to see lives changed by the power of the Holy Spirit, and we get to witness that and be a part of it and experience it front lines. Not just us, but our teams, our friends, as we minister and counsel and instruct and guide those who are coming behind us. We pray tonight that you open our hearts and minds as we come together to, in better ways, put together our programs, the paperwork we have to do, the curriculums that we have to compile and put together, and all the things that make it what it is, all the behind the scenes things that so many people don't see. May we do them faithfully and well. Give us health and strength, courage, and hope. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Awesome. Well, we're going to talk just really quickly about compliance. Doesn't that sound like fun? Woo! Compliance. Only because as Pam's getting ready to submit a bunch of stuff to the IRS and the Home Office is getting all their stuff in order, they're kind of coming down and saying, make sure all your camps are compliant. And it's just really, camps, as we've said a million times, are the riskiest thing that our denomination does. So we have to make sure that we are compliant with all of the rules and regs and the legal aspects, so that, it just takes one camp kind of not paying attention and it could really hurt the rest of us. So I'm going to share my screen here. And all right, it's here somewhere.
You need to make yourself a co-host.
Oh, I do need to make myself a co-host.
I need to log in.
Yeah, log in. Oh, you have to log in as me on there, hopefully. I can't find that. Share my screen. Hold on. Oh, wait, there it is. It's right in the middle. Okay, I'm going to share. Okay, I'm going to share this document, which you all have seen a version of this. Let me know when you can see it. Give me a thumbs up. Okay, Todd's got a thumbs up. Good, Marnie. Okay, so we gave out a copy of this checklist last year at our Camp Directors Summit, and we've made a few edits to it. This is the draft. We're going to get this approved by legal and the insurance and the Home Office, and then we'll send it out to you. But we just want to highlight a few things tonight just to make sure that everybody is familiar. We don't know. Let me just see if I can't see everybody's faces, but give me a thumbs up if you've read this and gone through it for your organization. For your aspect, whether it be a mission trip or camp. Very good. Anybody else read it? Mike, you read it.
Talking about having read the checklist or
the
checklist?
The
oh,
checklist.
Yeah.
You read the checklist?
When did this checklist go out?
Well, we gave it out, a hard copy out at the Camp Directors Summit last year in Ohio, and then I'm pretty sure we've emailed it.
Oh, okay.
But, oops, hold on, Mark has to mute. Hold on. There we go. Sorry about that. Mark just logged in on my computer. I'm on his computer. So let me just go through this real quick. We will be sending out another copy of this. So for each director, we want you to be familiar with the manual. And there are needed updates in the manual, and Jeff is aware of that, and he's working on getting those revised. The second point here, third point here, is that we ask that every director attends the summit, which is coming up soon, or send somebody that can stand in for them. Because we cover a lot of things in person there that you need to know and be aware of in your camps that we won't always cover on video chats or in writing. So it's really important to stay under that umbrella of the insurance covering and the theological covering. And when you hit a snag, you really want to be able to call the Home Office and get them to back you up. And so we've got to all stay compliant. You must have a steering advisory committee, which I think most of you submitted who your officers are. Pre-screen appoint officers, ensure that your GCMO, that's up here, Generations Camp, your battery's running low. Generations Camp Ministry Organization, that's what GCMO stands for, that your secretary receives and deposits the monies. I think most of you are doing this. So I just want you to read through this when we send it out and make sure that your treasurer's doing all these things, that you're getting an account reconciler, internal account reconciler who looks at it monthly, an internal account reviewer, an external account reviewer. And if you have any questions about these things, you have two things you can do, actually probably three. One is you can read the manual. The other is that you can watch the webinar that Pam and Matt Morgan did, and I've sent the link out for that, and I'll send it out again. Let's see, I think I've got a copy of it open right here. Let's see. So these webinars are mandatory. If you've not watched these or you were not on these webinars, we need you to watch these. These are really important. Risk Management 101 and 201.
It hasn't come up on the screen.
Oh, Mark can't see it yet, so I'm going to wait. How many of you can see that?
It's a PowerPoint slide screen.
Oh. Okay, hold on just a second. I stopped sharing. I'm going to share again. Okay, I think I only shared one program is what I did last time. So now I'm going to share my screen. There you go. Now can you see it? So these video chats are on our YouTube site on Risk Management 101 and 201, and Camp Finances, which is about budgeting and all your reporting. That's the one that Matt and Pam did, which is really excellent. It's got a lot of details. You can have your treasurers watch that. And then the GCI Theology at GenMin events was done by Anthony Mullins. And that's really helpful, especially when you're going to take the outline that has been given to you, the curriculum, the outline of the curriculum, and your presenters, maybe they're chaplains or speakers, are going to, they're going to take it in directions according to their personality, but we want to make sure they stay within the theological guidelines. So those four are really important for you to, why is,
You're still muted, but you can.
You are muted.
okay.
For how long?
I don't know. How long what did you, last thing you heard me say?
Welcome to the meeting.
Welcome to the meeting.
You were talking about the webinars.
Oh, you heard me talk about the webinars? Okay, something, I don't know, something's happening on this computer. It popped up a picture of a wedding venue and then it muted my microphone. Interesting. Okay, so one of the things that we want to make sure that your website has these things right here. Name of your camp, dates of your next camp, location of your camp, your tuition price, pretty easily accessible, how to register, contact info, camp director's name, photo preferable if possible, and your host denomination. And you can also put other things like the time that the campers are supposed to arrive, or things that you think that might be helpful for somebody who just wants to quickly go out there and look at your site. So not all the sites have all of those things. And if you want help with your website, you can talk to, I think Marty Davey just recently redid his site. And I think Pathways redid their site. They look really nice. Go out and you can find out how much it costs to have their sites done. Or if you want to use a free program like Wix, we can help you with that.
Is there a preferable link to the GCI Statement of Beliefs?
That's a great question. Who said that? Oh, is that
Linda.
Linda.
It's at the bottom end of this document.
Thank you. So this isn't it's not the most user friendly, I'll put it that way, but it is what we're using right now until we can get something else that's easier to click on. Because when you click on these, so it's a link to the GCI Statement of Beliefs. You can click on that, and what we're often asked. At least it's out there. So use those 2 links for now until we get a better, succinct way of giving you like a page of information you can just upload to your site. Because I know as a parent, you click on these. Well, let's just click on it and see what happens.
Jeff got on.
Is Jeff on?
Which one is the real Jeff Rodnax?
Oh, he was able to get on as well?
Ask him if he can repeat.
Jeff, are you on?
I'm here.
Let's see. Oh, can we see you? I don't see him.
Yeah.
Oh, there he is. Do you want to, do you need me to make you the host so you can show your screen?
Not yet. I mean, you just keep going, and then
Okay.
Mark's still logged in as me. He needs to log out. That way I can.
Yeah, that's me. So they were asking, Linda asked about the links that we want them to have on the website, and they're right here. And I was just saying that these are what we're going to use for now, but we will eventually come up with a more succinct way of stating it so that parents don't have to wade through all these pages and all these questions. But at least it's out there, and people can see what we stand for. And I know especially this comes to the issue of, marriage between one man and one woman and that kind of thing. So did you want to add anything to that, Jeff, about the links?
No, just at this point, the reality of just having it there, that's our first start point, is making sure that people can have access to the things they need to know about who we are, about our denomination, about our beliefs, and it just be clear for them, and they be able to get there within one link.
So this first page is what we're asking for each director to be able to check all these off and make sure that they happen. It doesn't mean that you do this. It means that you're making sure your treasurer is getting, an account reviewer, etc. And the last thing, ensure that only those authorized to sign contracts do so. And then the second page is for each advisory committee member of each camp, what they should do. And it's very similar, but there's things in there about making sure the staff is screened, and how often and how is all in the manual and also in this checklist. There's also verbiage here that we want to make sure are in your applications. This one right here, ensure that the camper application forms include a minimum of the following phrases: upon receipt of the completed application and blank non-refundable deposit, however much your deposit is, applications will be reviewed. If accepted, a packet with camper information and tuition statement will be sent to the camper. So whether, most of us do electronic packets, but some of you might mail it. But the point is that we want to make sure that as each camper applies, we're saying you have been accepted, so that we have that one. This is what the legal department has asked us to put in there, so that we can go back. Let's say we have a transgendered kid that we just can't accommodate with housing. We can go back, and we haven't accepted them yet. So it's not like we're pulling them. We actually have to accept each camper, which might be a change. I know that's a change for us. But that's something that we want to make sure that is in there, and also the same thing for staff, especially. And then the only other thing I wanted to really highlight here is that you make sure incident reports are filed within 24 hours of the incident, and that Jeff is sent a copy of those incident reports, and that you keep all your records according to the manual, which I believe is 7 years. Is it 7 years or 10? 7?
7 for most things.
Yeah, for most things. So,
and if you need to know if you want to have a little clarity on what an incident, what constitutes an incident, that's in the GenMin handbook. You want to go through that, but if you have a fight, that's considered an incident. It doesn't have to be really long and drawn out. And in fact, you want to be kind of in what you actually write. You need to have the incident paid out, at least here's what happened. There was a fight between camper A, camper B, and we went to the chaplain and had this conversation with the parents, talked to the parents. Generic said that I'm aware of that, and then if we need to follow up, we need to deal with that. Anybody who has to leave your camp and go to the doctor or the hospital, that's somebody's injured. Even if somebody gets sick, that's an incident. That's considered an incident. And you guys understand the reason why, right? If somebody's camp, you have to take somebody off camp. It's those kind of things that something happens on the way. We just need to be able to make sure that it's documented and we're aware of it beforehand as it's happening contemporaneously, as opposed to after camp. You know what I'm saying?
Anybody have a question about that?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I'm sorry, not about that.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. Just asking a quick question about what's a good recommendation for the number of people on the advisory team?
Did you want to answer that, Jeff? No?
I mean, your steering committee, like
This one right here.
the steering committee, that / advisory team, that it's comparable to what an advisory team is for a local church. But it's your steering committee, and it really deals with, you're really talking about your key administrative staff and a couple people. I wouldn't make it more than 5 to 7. No more than 7 for sure.
Okay. Well, we have a steering committee, and then we have an advisory team. We have two separate.
Okay, so you got one of each.
Yes.
So how do their functions differ?
Right. Yeah. The steering committee are the ones that get together like at the end of camp and say, okay, this is what happened. We look at the feedback. We kind of try to make some decisions based on camper and staff feedback. And then we get prepared for the advisory team meeting, which is a lot more people. We have quite a few people that have key positions that we want to hear what they recommend. We get their input from.
Okay.
So do you have, which team would vote something through?
Well, we haven't actually voted.
Okay.
Well, let me ask this, because if there was a group that has a clearer insight as to what that looks like, it's Mike Ermey. So, Mike, when you guys were doing Crosswalk, you guys had your young leaders, you all would kind of get together. Did you have a steering committee as well, or was it just all that whole group?
No, we just had one team that got together and worked out all the camp procedures, processes, all the activities. We meet on a monthly basis every month of the year. That team also plans some of our local youth activities throughout the year. So we have a monthly meeting. We discuss what we're doing for the youth, the next 2-3 months, and then we also discuss the coming camp. And that's the primary group that is organizing and the leaders for the actual camp event as well.
Okay. So what was the number? How many people were on that team?
It's typically around 7 or so plus pastor. And
I think
most of those are young.
Just for even local churches, not to have one that's larger than about 7. Because after a while, you can still deal with your ministry leaders, right? You can still have ministry leaders that get together and give input. You can have as many people as you want. You have all your counselors together giving input, but your team, where they take all that information and then hash it all out later on and make the decisions, you probably want to have that be a smaller group of folks.
Yeah, and maybe I'll add to that. That's kind of the steering committee, what we call our light team, that met throughout the year. Then about a month before camp, we would have our major staff training meeting, and that typically was 30 or so folks participating in that, because that's all the counselors, all the different ministry heads of various sorts, and we work together on the whole camp process. But through the year, it's about 7 plus a pastor or so.
Okay. And Marty, did you have anything different? What do you guys do?
We have We have a group of myself, Michelle, my wife, Charles and Keisha, Taylor, Chrissy, and so it's about 6 of us. And we, when we get together, we may occasionally talk on the phone. Of course, Michelle and I and Yvonne do a lot of planning in person. And the Miami group is a little harder to get together, but we get good input from them, and eventually put it all together. And we do a lot more by email with them. We don't have a monthly meeting with the Miami group. It would be too difficult to do that. When the Tallahassee group was more involved, we also included the rate straws in all our pre-planning and so forth. But they haven't participated as much in the last year or so. Their kids have gotten older, except for Andrew, and although Andrew's older now too. So yeah, so that's what ours looks like. We've got about six of us, and we do a lot on the phone as we get close to camp. We don't really dive into it until we get into January, February, and we start our planning. So we don't do much on a year-round basis.
Okay. Carrie, how about you? You want to share what you do?
Yeah, similar to Marty, kind of really digging in January, but we've got 5, 6 right now that I keep in contact with regularly via email, or just that we go through, even like I said, at the end of camp, kind of rehashing what went well, what we want to change for the next year, and sticking with. So
That's great. Okay.
So in the manual, it talks about advisory members, and then they're giving advice to the pastor, or the camp director or the mission director. So you wouldn't really count yourself as a member. And I believe you wouldn't even count the treasurer, correct? I mean, the treasurer can be.
For a church, it's divided into advisory committee and a finance team. Finance.
So when we run our meetings at SoCal, we've got a team of, I think it's 5 that are advising Mark and I. So if you count all of us, it's 7. Does that sound right, Melinda? So Jason, Melinda, Janet, Fred, Marianne, and then Sue's our treasurer. So I guess you could count her as the 6th, but and we do all the functions that you were just talking about that you divide into 2. We do the creative stuff. We also do the personnel stuff, and we do the voting stuff into policies and how we're going to go forward. So you can divide that into 2 and have like a dream team, and then they present the ideas to the official board or the advisory council, who approves it and votes it, and they take care of the budget and the money, kind of thing. So there are a couple ways to go about it, but it's good to have an odd number. I'll just say that, because if you do get into a voting situation, you won't get gridlocked.
Yep.
Did that answer your question, Linda?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it sounds like we're all kind of, the terminology for some of the different things we do.
Right.
Like I say, that I think our steering committee, what we call our steering committee, is 6 members, 5, 6, 7 members. And the advisory team, we've got about 18 to 20, I think, that, like you said, give us recommendations from what they've seen and heard at camp and what people said. So we kind of say, okay, and then we go from there, but we haven't really voted. Nobody has voted on anything. We just kind of all come to a consensus on what we're going to do.
So who gets to make the final decision? That's Todd. I mean, everybody's advising Todd. So you got a lot of people advising you, Todd. So you've never come down to a point where maybe there was a majority of the people leaning one way and a couple, and you didn't, you just had to come down and make a decision?
That's happened.
Yeah.
That has definitely happened.
So, one way you could do it is just take maybe your steering committee, and they could be the ones that vote for the final decision. That's another way to do it. And in our situation, most of the time we all agree. It's the same. It's like we all reach a consensus. But there have been a couple times when everybody, maybe Mark or I didn't agree completely, but the whole team felt that way, and we just, we voted on it and we went that way. So, yeah, hopefully, well, actually, this leads right into what we want to talk about, which is building an effective team and working in teams. And your advisory or steering or board or whatever you want to call them, they're your work, your group, they're your coworkers, they're the people that make it happen at camp, and you need them, and to use them and their strengths effectively will make a great team. And like I said at the beginning of the call, you really want and get along with, and that it's not, I don't know, the idea of having a board sounds really stiff and formal to me, but you really want these people to be people that you roll up your sleeves and do ministry with. So I'm going to let Jeff take the rest of the meeting to talk about teams, because I think that is so important, and the fact that we kind of landed there by going through this information. We just wanted to make you aware of this again, to go through this checklist and make sure that you can check every one of those boxes. So we're going to send the final version out to you once this gets approved. Just kind of please go through it. But the biggest thing on here, the most timely, is right here. Please make sure somebody from your camp is attending the summit, either you or representative. And your camp should pay for it. This should be something that's in the budget every year. If you're struggling in that area, just talk to Jeff and or Mark or I, and we'll see what we can do to help you. But we're going to make sure that this recording goes out to the camps that are not here on the call, because most of you are already complying with all this. It's the ones that aren't on the call that we might not know where they stand. We want to make sure that we get everybody at that summit. It's going to be fun, and it's also going to be really informative. So with that, Jeff.
And also these calls. These calls are vital as well, and they're a part of, it's a 1 hour a month kind of commitment for what we need to do. But there's some stuff that we can't cover it all, and if we can, so that we don't kind of reinvent the wheel every year with the summit, we can keep moving forward. It's these calls that kind of let us kind of deal with some of the stuff that we have to deal with in an hour or two or a time. So you need to have somebody. The goal is for you to be there. That's the plan. If you can't make it, this is for every director. If you can't make it, you need to let me know, or you need to let us know. It's a part of our compliance that we have to do for the denomination, because there's stuff that I've got to make sure that every camp director and every camp administrator is aware of. And having to track people down and, kind of send messages and hope they get it and hope they respond and make a couple different calls is not, that's not the best use of time when we gather together once a month and we can send stuff out. I really do need, it's really important that we comply and be on these calls. Like I asked at one point that each of you kind of go through what you have in IMUS. If you log into IMUS and just kind of look, what do they have? That's your steering committee is listed there in IMUS. Because you're a chartered organization, you're a chartered 501c3 organization, that steering committee is what the IRS, that's who they're going to be looking toward and looking for from the denomination as the people who are decision makers for you. So your treasurer needs to be current. If the person listed in IMUS for your camp is not your current treasurer, if the signatories on your account are not the signatories on your account, camps, and what I've even seen of a couple camps is that it's outdated. It's very outdated. Some of the people, and churches are the same way. We've been going through this with the churches as well as the local camps. You need to pay attention. I'm going to send you all a list if you haven't looked, if you're unable to look at it yourself. I'll send you a list of who is listed as your steering committee, because we need to keep that updated with HR, with legal, and you're going to get some information from them, from Evelyn for insurance, and part of that is just making sure that all of our records are up to date.
So Jeff, on that IMUS screen, it won't be everybody on the steering committee. It's just officers.
Yeah, just the officers. So it's going to be your camp director. It's going to be your. I
don't know if they can hear me. Can you hear me? Yeah. But I can't hear Jeff.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me still? Mark, I heard you too. They just pulled up SoCals, right? This is, so you got the account director or the camp director. You've got the treasurer. You've got whoever the secretary, financial secretary of the secretary is, and then the authorized signatories on your account. Very important. And then general, if you got somebody else that's there, like a camp administrator, a general staff, that's what's going to be listed for each camp. There's something like that for every camp. So I need you to just double check and make sure those things are accurate when you go into GCI IMIS. Okay. All right. So Mark, you're going to give me back the, was somebody else saying something? All right. Let me see if I can share my screen now.
You should be able to. I made you the host.
All right. Let me
The real Jeffrey Brudniks.
I am the real one. All right. I just want to take a little time and just walk through working with teams. This kind of builds on kind of where we were last year with when we started with kind of the 5 voices thing, the 5 voices inventory, and just kind of learning how different members of our team function together, how we hear each other, how we think. The whole 5 voices process is what they call transforming team communication. What it's designed around, where they would put a little focus on that, is around transforming team communication. And so Rick Schallenberg and I went through a much deeper dive over the last year. And so we got certified in actually the 5 voices and what that actually means and looks like. We're going to be presenting it to the pastors, a lot of our regional directors and pastors. I'm going to bring it back up at our summit, just to go through it, not for the sake of going through a program, but going through it for the sake of focusing our attention on the aspects of a team that help us become more efficient. I've realized, and I will say this to each of you, I realize that after going through this for me, I wish when I started as a camp coach and even as a pastor, that I knew then what I've learned in the last couple of years. I think it would have made me much more effective as a leader, much more effective as a leader for GenMin. And so I'm trying to implement some of those pieces, some of the things that I've learned about my own leadership style, but also about how to be most effective with the team that we have. And right now, you are my team. You're the team for GenMin when it comes to camps and missions. And then we've got other folks that do stuff for GC Launch and GC Ignite and other things. But the primary function for camps and missions are you. And so we've got to be really clear as far as what we're doing. And I know that sometimes our meetings, our get-togethers, they seem like we spend a lot of time dealing kind of in this area of getting aligned and kind of executing stuff. And this is where most time when you deal with any business or any corporation or any organization, you hear a lot of talk about mission and vision, where people are focusing a lot on alignment, making sure everybody's on the same page, making sure we're executing and that we're operating at capacity. And we've been focusing a lot on that. But one of the things that we picked up when we were going through this tool was the real need to not put alignment first, not spend all of our time doing alignment first. If we go back to 2005 when we were at Estes Park, yeah, Jeb was talking a little bit about, he was walking us through some kind of alignment stuff in mission and vision, how we get there. But what we did most of our time doing really was spending time together. That's what we used to do with these summits. Time together. We'd laugh together. We'd go out and eat, and we'd spend time getting to know each other and doing more things together. So that when it came time to dealing with alignment and execution as directors and our capacity for what we're doing, a foundation that was much more solid. So what I want to begin to focus on right now with each of you, and just ask you to do an assessment of yourself, do an assessment of your camp, do an assessment of your team in these 5 areas, right? And if I had to be honest, I would say I've spent as a leader communicating with each of you. If I look at my tenure in the last year and a half as GenMin coordinator, I'd say I spent a lot more time dealing with alignment and execution than I have in communication and relationships. I spend time in relationships, but not the time that we need. I'm basing it on what we've all had for years. I ask the question, if you had to ask where you spend most of your time with your team or with your leadership, your camp leadership, you spend most of your time, do you spend an equal amount of time, or where do you start with them? Are you starting with communication where you're spending time kind of learning how each other thinks, hearing each other's voice, being able to help people figure out how they can bring their best to the unit, how you can get everybody's ideas rather than just a few people who always speak first? That's what the 5 voices piece comes in. Do you spend time in connecting those relationships and making them solid even though they're different? Or do we get close to camp and realize that we got a lot of stuff that we got to cover, a lot of stuff we got to deal with, and so we start focusing on the curriculum, we start focusing on the checklist, we start focusing on all the details and stuff that we got to accomplish because camp happening in a couple of months? Or do we get to that point where it's game time and we got to figure out, okay, how are we going to do crew? How are we going to do these challenges? How are we going to do the chapels? How are we going to do the activities? Who's going to do what? And then how do we develop leaders? If you had to ask yourself, where do you spend most of, or where do you start with your team most of the time? Let me ask you, Todd. Let me start with you.
If I had to pick just one, I think we start with execution.
Okay.
We do a lot of communicating. Our communicating was something we had to improve. It was not good at one time. We spend time on alignment. But as I look at this circle, I think where we need work is relationships.
Okay. Okay. Excellent. Marty, how about you? What's
tell me, before I answer that, could you tell me what capacity in regards to camp are we referring to, like the availability of staff members and counselors and so forth?
Yeah, and I think capacity deals a little bit more also with their ability to actually not just execute, but go beyond and develop more leaders, right? Just kind of bringing what's the capacity of your people, not just to fulfill a task or a job, but to lead and develop more leaders.
Yeah, yeah. In our approach, we probably deal with the alignment and execution very, very late. As we get close to camp, we will have a get together and we'll go over the rules, regulations, what our goals are, what we're going to be, any training updates, anything like that. So alignment and execution is probably a later thing that we do in the last 3 or 4 weeks before camp, to kind of get everybody together and go over that. I would say we probably spend more time in the communication and relationship aspect, since most of our staff now is in the Jacksonville congregation, and so we do a lot together, see each other a lot, talk about things a lot, talk about camp at church, and on the phone if we're considering different ideas or changes and so forth. So the communication and relationship is probably a very ongoing thing. The execution and alignment is something we hone in on the last few weeks before camp. And the capacity aspect of preparing new leaders and training, we usually do something at camp to prepare for that, get together with the younger ones to kind of get them ready to be counselors, see who wants to be counselor in training next year, and recruiting of staff and their capacity and skills is hasn't been a big difficulty for us, because we usually have the same people, every year, and we do add new staff, but we've always got a reliable group that we know we can count on. And as the younger kids are growing up, we've added several of them to the counselor staff. So, yeah, the capacity part has taken, some time, some effort, but that's more of targeting each on an individual basis.
What percentage of your staff was in your Jacksonville church?
Last year we probably had 28, 30 staff members, and I would say 20, at least 20 were from the Jacksonville congregation.
Okay, that speaks volumes. Okay, so yeah, let me reframe the question then and just say, of these 5 areas, which would you say is your camp's greatest strength and the area where you probably need to work a little bit? Kim, how about you?
I would definitely say that we work on the alignment and the execution more, and better communication, the relationship. I think especially our dynamic, everyone's all spread out. So we try to do some video chats and things like this, but that's usually just with the steering or advisory committee, those 5, 6 people, 7 people. So as far as the rest of the staff, there's not a ton of communication or relationship building. And I think a lot of that, like I said, just with everyone being so spread out over multiple states, let alone multiple cities. So it is something that we've been working on or talking about in that little committee, about doing better of getting those relationships and that communication better, so that I think it will improve that execution and alignment that we've got going on.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Rebecca, how about you? About Great Lakes?
Yeah, well, for us, the relationships come very easily because part of the core team are my sister and brother-in-law, and then my pastor, and I see all of them like at least twice a week. And then David and Ann Howe, who we're pretty close with as well. So the relationships are really great. Probably, I guess my opinion would be execution is more challenging. We kind of talk throughout the year of things that we want to do or try, but to actually like sit down and put those into action is a bit of a struggle. I'm hoping to make that more of a priority over the next couple months to kind of do this kind of thing where we just have maybe webinar meetings to discuss and actually like put into action what we've been talking about throughout the year.
Okay, great, thank you. Mike, Ermi, how about you guys?
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. I guess our situation is a little different in that, as I mentioned earlier, our team meets every month and kind of works on 2 parallel paths because they're working together. The 6 or 7 that we have on that young adult team are working together on youth activities that are planned for every month. And so they're kind of working together all the time. And so we're together, we're spending, half of our time, they're spending half their time talking about that, working on it, and half on camp throughout the year.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of communication going on because there's always something, something in the planning stage or execution stage. And these get-togethers are always held in somebody's home. We usually have a meal together and spend time just laughing and sharing and that kind of thing. And then we get down to work and say, okay, what's up for next month's activity and what do we need to be working on for the next camp? So that's where we come together, in alignment and in plan execution and so on. So I guess because everyone is part of our local church, and we live fairly close for the most part, and we have those opportunities to get together in a home much more often. We're probably much stronger in relationship. Just that's a benefit, relationships and communication with each other because everybody's working on something together throughout the year. That really benefits the camp as well.
That's great. That's great. Carrie?
I would say we're getting better at relationships because I've tried to do exactly like Mike said, have the meetings in home as much as possible and gather together. But so that's helped our overall communication. But I think, like, kind of like Kim, I was thinking of just our staff as a whole, not just the team, but just thinking of the staff as a whole. There's more that could be done for communication relationships, because we are able to be pretty well aligned and execute, because we've done Camp Well for many years, and we're kind of in that transition period of wanting to make sure that our capacity is more than what it has been. I think we've been good at that, but if we had to pick one that we were the best at, like you said, I think, I can't pick just one, but capacity is the one that has been focused on the most in the last couple of years, I think. So we've gotten better at that and pouring into those coming up, but that has left us on the other end, not maintaining current relationships and things as well, but getting back to that.
And your camp's gone through a lot of transition as well in the last year.
Yeah.
That's also added.
Yeah.
Janet, how does this apply to what you do, Janet?
Oh, I was wondering what would happen with me. Okay, well, I'm not sure. I haven't had a camp for 3 years, and now all of a sudden, a mission, and all of a sudden it looks like I might have one. So I have 4 on my advisory council. And 2 of them are on the SCP council, and we see each other quite often, and we all get along real well. And the other 2 are in my congregation, so we see each other. One's my daughter-in-law, so we see each other every week. But how does all this apply? Oh, wow. It's almost, I have different people that I go to a different place every time, and I have different people every time that are part of my mission team. So
sure.
Typically in the past, when I've had a team, we would meet every week or every 2 weeks in my house, and we would have our training and our social time, and then we would do more of that at our mission before it starts. So I'm not sure where to go with
that's fine. That's fine. Yeah. Stan, how about you? I see you there. Stan, are you there?
I had you on mute. I was talking to the mute.
Oh, okay.
We've been listening the whole time. We definitely have a good, strong team. We execute a lot on the vision, as well as alignment and execution. Because we've been thinking about what we want, of course, and we've been just trying to execute that. We've updated our corporate resolutions, our card, got the old directives off of the charter and all that sort of thing. So we're trying to get things in place slowly but surely. We're also struggling with changeover of personnel, because folks have been doing it for a while, and with me as new director, it's a reasonable for them to make a transition, and some are choosing to do that. So, we're placed and with a new location, so there's lots to pray about.
Okay. All right. Linda, would you add anything to what Todd said earlier? I don't want to leave you in the lurch. Would you add anything to what Todd?
I don't know if she's still on, Jeff.
Yeah, she's there.
Is she there?
Yeah,
I just wanted to quickly say, if she's trying to get on, but I just wanted to quickly say, when I talk about relationships, obviously Dave and Lynn and I have known each other since I was a child.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some other relationships there that have been that long.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get down to the rank and file,
mm-hmm.
Our footprint is huge.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some of those folks that I have to confess, I haven't heard from them since August. And of course, we get new people all the time, but those are where I want those relationships to be stronger. I want those people to feel so thoroughly tied in to each other and to what we're doing that it is a stronger, loving, relationship there. And that's my major concern.
Sure.
We communicate, Dave and Lynn and I communicate all year long. So, and there are other members of my advisory council that we talk pretty regularly.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the rank and file people, and we're actually looking at some of this for our staff retreat, how to make that retreat serve that into things better. So that's what I'm excited about. But Linda's on now. I can see her, so I know she wants to answer.
Yeah, I couldn't figure out how to unmute. It wouldn't unmute. Sorry. I agree with what Todd has said too. I think, of course, so that's something I try to do. I don't do it as often as I would like. I mean, probably for a couple months after camp, I don't talk to anybody about camp at all. And then we start getting back into the swing of it. But the one thing that I would say, alignment and execution, I feel like it's been doing for so long, it just happens. That makes sense. But we just, we can do it in our sleep. But the capacity is something we've been trying to work on more in the last couple of years. In that capacity, one of the things I'm doing is, because there's a couple of people I'm working with, trying to, communicate and relationships with them. Finally got online, and that was through, months of working with Julie Gardner, and she's done a great job. She's gotten things together, and we've been talking. I've got another girl that's some other things. So I think to me, that's where our focus is in the capacity and relationships. Yeah, that end of it. So.
Sure. Mark, Ann, you guys want to address SoCal?
Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking about the different teams. We've got a core team within our team, and I think most of you have talked about that. Like Melinda, myself, Mark, Sue, we talk every week, and we're really, we start every call with relationships. How are we doing? We communicate, and then we're like big on the execution alignment, I think, and we're trying to use each other in our areas of giftedness. So I think even with our small part, we're pretty even in all of them, but I think where we could improve is expanding that out to the rest of our advisory steering committee, and then out to the larger team. Because we get so busy, like we know what's going on, and then we fail to communicate that out so everybody else knows, hey, stuff is going on, and we're just working hard. Our little hamsters in our wheels, running. And I think sometimes other people, we don't communicate as well to let everybody else know we're trying. And I will say that the other teams, like let's say you have a team of counselors and team of, chaplains or those kinds of teams, we worked really hard last year to improve our communication and relationships before camp by doing webinars with every single team. And that was hands down amazing. And we were kind of forced into it because we lost our staff training day before camp. But I definitely want to keep doing that no matter what, because getting them to be a team before they get to camp, the lead counselor, the assistant counselor, and the dorm parent, getting them all to start working as a team and figuring out where their strengths and weaknesses are was a big win for us. So there's definitely a lot that we can take away from this wheel, just looking at it and thinking it through.
Well, and I would say thank you to all of you for your candor, for your honesty there. I think this is one of the questions that we can ask to kind of figure out just how high performing our overall team is can we get through camp? Can we not have a successful camp? Of course we can have a successful camp because we know what it takes. We know all the details. Been there time and time again. They come, they know what they're supposed to do. They know how to set up their spot. They know how to run their activity. They know how to do this and they know how to do that. The real question is, how well can they explain our why? How well can they explain what your camp, where your camp fits in the greater GenMin network, or in the greater GCI network, or in the greater body of the local congregation of the region? How well can people articulate why we do camp, what we've reimagined? And part of that is they know what your camp does well, because, man, that's where they live. That's absolutely where they live. They come, they love it. That's why they keep coming back, because that camp has been transformational for them. But I think the question becomes, how well can people articulate for other folks what we're really there for, right? How does this fit into this bigger cog, or this bigger wheel that God is doing? And how well are we communicating that? And what kind of relationships do we have? What kind of relationships do we have that facilitate that kind of exponential growth, where, they know that every young person who's there knows that there's somebody who's pouring into them for a reason. They're pouring into them because, hey, listen, I want you to be doing this job coming soon. I want you. We need you to be a part of this. Not one day you'll be leading this, but man, we need to be actively pouring into it and expanding the capacity and liberating young people, finding our own replacements, finding ways that that every person can go home, translate what they've gained there back in their local church with a realistic and passionate execution. That's part of something that we all need to do. I can tell you that if I had to assess my team, which are all of you, I know that we focus a lot on alignment, and we talk about execution, and we get together and we do best practices. We talk about the things that work well. We mention stuff about capacity, but I would say one of the areas of weakness for me as a leader, and for the team that I'm leading here for our group, isn't that we don't communicate. We give information. We have information there, but are we really communicating? I spend time talking to Mark and Ann a lot. I spend time talking to Melinda a lot. I talk to different ones of you at times over various things. Are we really communicating where, man, that communication is building a momentum and our relationships are growing again? Or does these conference calls or video chats or our summit, does it feel like that thing we have to do? Right? And I think it can feel that way. I don't want it to feel like that mandatory event, but I want it to feel like that thing that, man, I cannot wait because I get to be with Kim again. I get to find out what's happening at New Heights. I get to be with Stan. I get to be with Shane. I get to be with Sarah. Man, I get to see Toby, and we get to figure out what happened this year. Or I get to learn what it looks like even more to be a part of what's happening down at Camp Surrey, how they went from Crosswalk to Surrey. I want to learn more about that and how they do it and what it's like in those homes. I would like to be deliberate about establishing more of that. Not taking my attention off the alignment, because that's necessary. Because we all realize we are the largest liability for the denomination. Our camps and missions are the largest liability that our denomination has. One thing that happens, we say that a lot, but I don't want to be scaring people. But our reality is, if we don't operate with alignment and execution, that one thing, everything else at risk. And so some things we cannot mess around with. That's why we end up focusing all this time on those things. But I don't want to lose, and I feel like over the last couple of years, because I've been busy, I've been kind of split and operating in different arenas, pastoring, doing GenMin, doing some other stuff now. I don't want to lose that. And so I want this summit to also reestablish our relationships. I want to spend time just kind of sitting and chilling at the same time as we're getting stuff done. So I want to have that a balance of all of it. So I would say that that's where I feel like we need to grow, that I need to grow as a leader, in helping us communicate better, communicate more regularly, get the greater GenMin universe, and just continue to establishing and keep oiling those that we have. So to me, and I know we do a reasonably good job. For me, I see that that's an area where I really want to for me. So with that in mind, is there anything else that you guys find? And we're at time, and I just want to ask: is there anything else before we begin putting together the itinerary for the week, for the summit? Is there anything that you feel is pressing that we need to address at the summit this year?
I'm not sure if it's a topic to address, Jeff, but I do want to share, I think, a good practice that we're trying to pursue now. We're trying to reach out to local colleges and universities to solicit volunteers, for example, for lifeguards. And we're also going to try and solicit discounts on our key areas of concern, food, archery equipment, riflery equipment, paintball equipment, golf cart. So we're hoping that we can trade some advertising for some discounts, if not flat out, sponsorship. Okay. So I just wanted to mention as something that maybe the other directors could also consider.
Okay. Pardon me for saying this. Who's the number 702, 703? Who is that?
I think that's mine.
Okay, because you're in here twice. Okay. All right. 703, okay. 232, 7819. Okay. All right. You're in there twice. Is there anything else that you guys feel we need that's a pressing matter that we need to make sure we cover during the summit? That for you need to have some time spent on? Is there anything you guys had in mind that was for you?
I want to reply to Stan and just let him know that we've gotten feedback from other camp directors that they definitely want a best practices session, because that is the practical stuff. Like, that's a great idea, and you can go back and really apply that immediately to your church, to your camp. So we definitely will have a session where you can give ideas like that out to the others, and then people can go home with lots of notes and ideas. And that is an exciting thing. That's something I've always enjoyed and gotten a lot out of. So we will do that. One other thing that just kind of popped into my head, Jeff, is maybe we could have a brainstorming session about how to take camp back to the local church. And I know we talk about this all the time, and of course, Crosswalk, which is now Surrey Hills Camp, could even maybe help lead that discussion, or at least have a couple people there representing and how they've done it. And it won't look like Oklahoma won't look like San Diego, but maybe just brainstorm and think outside the box, so that we don't get into an idea that there's one formula that will work all over the United States, but that there's a lot of different ways that we can take this idea of camp, whether it's a residential or a day camp, whether it's 3 days or 7, and bring that back to the life of the church. So that's just an idea.
I've actually invited Mike Rasmussen. Some of you, I don't know if you guys are aware of if you're keeping up with just some of the administrative kind of changes that we've had in the denomination in the last few months. But Mike Rasmussen has taken on a new responsibility. He's still the regional director for the central part of the U.S., but he's also taken on a role of superintendent of North America. So he's leading all the regional directors here in the U.S. as well as Canada and the Caribbean. And Mike's partially tasked with casting for leadership for the directors, which would affect all of us because our camps fall in those regions. So I asked Mike if he would come as well and just share kind of what that looks like for him. And part of Mike's region, Mike's been on the forefront of challenging the directors in his, or the pastors in his area to bring what we have succeeded at in camp ministry, camp and mission ministry, bring it to their local church. He's challenged all of his pastors to try to put something together, to look for a way, to ask the Lord to show them how to put something together to do a neighborhood camp out of their church. He's challenged every one of his churches to do that. And so when that happens, as other regional directors do that, part of where they're going to go is to us to be able to help them see what that looks like, or to see what kind of things need to be translated. And so we've got to, I don't want us to go back to solely regional camp mode. I want us to go back, make sure we're staying in the reimagining camp mode, right? And we reimagine what this looks like by not letting it become static region-wide, but that we are always asking the question, like every pastor is asking the question, how do we get outside of the walls of our church? And how do we, because that's where we've been called to be. We've been called to be outside of the walls of the church. The walls of the church are for training and equipping. Our camps are for training and equipping. What we're really challenging people to do is actually take that and live it out the 51 weeks in a local church. So we're going to be, I know Mike's going to be challenging us to do that, but I need us to continue thinking in reimagining camp mode. How do you reimagine your local camp or your regional camp? How do, when Marty said that out of his staff, the vast majority of them are coming out of his local church. What's that mean? What's that say to him? Not to say that he can't do a regional camp, but look at what he has there. He's got the ability. My goal is to try to visit Marty's camp this summer. That's my goal. Actually, I'm going to be down there one way or another because I just want to see it. Everything I've heard, I just see incredible ways to be able to bless his local church and the community around his church and the people. I just want us to be in that mode. So I need you to be praying, not so much for alignment or execution of that, but how do you build the relationships with your team that gets them thinking about the relationships they need to build? How do we communicate the ultimate vision for everything we do in a way that allows them to go home and not just talk about what happened at camp, but talk about what needs to happen at home? Everybody? Okay, so that's my heart and that's my prayer for all of you. And that's what I'm going to spend a little more time doing. So I'm going to try my best to put information in front of you that gives you stuff to think about, or that gives you stuff to follow up on or to chew on. And I know that Mark and Ann and Melinda, they help me quite a bit, kind of keep me focused. But we want to try to communicate on a regular basis in a way. So again, if you get something from Mark and Ann, or you get something from Melinda, it's because we're talking about it and we need it to get out there. My job though is to not let it bottleneck with me organizationally. Some of you know I've taken on a responsibility as an assistant regional director as well. I'm doing GenMin part to half time, and I'm doing the assistant regional director job half time in the central region. The ultimate goal though is to still take what GenMin is and multiply leaders. It's not about me or Mark or Ann or Melinda or anybody else. It's about us multiplying leadership. So that's the plan.
So, can I just say that if any of you have, maybe just ask yourself in the next week or so, like when I leave the Director's Summit, what do I want to walk away with? Like what would make me feel like, yes, that was worth the money. That was worth the time. Like what is it that you really want to get out of the summit? I mean, besides the fact that we just told you have to be there. Why is it that you're going? Like, what do you want to get out of it? Best practices obviously are we've already talked about that, but maybe you have a burning question, and there are topics that we do need to talk about that we can't talk about on video, or maybe in smaller dialogue groups. So please send those to Jeff, and that when we can get the agenda rolling out that has space for relationships, but also gets to some of the core things that we can't do over the phone and over video. So I just implore you to please do that, so that you don't just come and go, well, why did they put this on the agenda? Like seriously think about what you need as a mission or a camp director, and then let us try to make space for it.
I also made space for Evelyn. I asked Evelyn, we're going to be at the home office. I asked Evelyn if she would come in, Evelyn Daly, who's our legal representative. I asked Evelyn if she would come and just do a Q&A. If there's anything that we need to actually address while we're there, rather than me have to say, well, let me check with legal, we can ask her. We can ask HR. We can ask Cheryl if she'll come in too and make media folks. So I've done that too. The other thing I need to know over the next week, I really love to have this information from all directors, is who's coming from your camp for the summit. And I'll send you out a message that'll tell you the information I need. I need to know who's coming, how you're going to get there. Are you going to fly? Are you going to drive? We have a vehicle that you could help if we need transportation-wise. How many rooms will you need at the Homewoods? And then the goal is going to be, my goal is to take care of the meals for you. There may be one night where we'll go out. We're going to try to go out to maybe Top Golf or something like that, and go and have time together. Things to do for us, and we may have to just have people pitch in that night. But I'm going to try to cover all the other meals. Right? I may ask you to cover one meal while you're there. I'll cover all the rest of them. The breakfast is done at the hotel. I'll cover all the rest of them for maybe one. Is that okay, everybody?
Awesome.
Okay. So, but if you could let me know who's coming from your camp, when you guys plan to arrive, when you're going to leave, how many rooms we need, because I want to solidify with the hotel how many rooms we need, and then just get going with planning.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Regarding the rooms,
Yeah.
I checked them out last night. I did actually send you an email, but you probably haven't had time.
I saw it. I just been out all day.
Are the 2-room suites a lot more expensive, or like double the 2-bedroom suites?
No, here's the deal. I think what they are, everything is a suite, but I think the two bedrooms just mean 2 beds just means it has 2 beds rather than a king size bed. It has 2 queens.
Actually, that's not right.
Is that right?
I did a lot of research on it. I do this.
I didn't see that one, so I don't know. If I'm
They
wrong.
have 1-bedroom suites and they have 2-bedroom suites. And with the 2-bedroom suites, each bedroom has a bath. So I'm wondering what the price difference is between those and the 1-bedroom suites.
Let me find out from Pam.
Okay.
When I went, I only stayed in the king one. We stayed in one of the other embassy suites or whatever the other was, and so they were just all one room. So I will double check that and see what the price is. I know what they blocked for us was just the king suites, but I'll double check it.
Hey, Jeff, I have a question.
Yeah.
So I know that you're asking at least the camp director or a representative come from each camp or mission. I know in the past we brought other team members, like some people have brought somebody they're pouring into to be the next camp director or something. Are you wanting that? Are you wanting people to bring a team of people, or are you looking for just directors? Like, what's your vision?
Yeah, I think for one more year, for this year, I want to have, if you bring somebody else, it's either going to be your camp administrator or your camp treasurer. I mean, if you're transitioning out and you've got your next director, absolutely, bring. But I'm not particularly looking for us to bring the whole shebang of key leaders. Just bring who you bring. You can bring who you think is important to be there. Somebody who you think is important for your camp, right? Just shoot me a note and say, hey, listen, what about bringing so-and-so? Shoot Mark and Ann a note, think about bringing so-and-so. Here's why. And we'll, if you feel that's vital, then yes. Because like Kim, I don't know if Daishan's going to be able to make it, but I know if Kim's coming, then there's a reason Kim's coming.
And especially if the camp director can't make it.
Yeah.
Please send something.
Does that make sense to everybody? I want us to be able to spend time connecting ourselves, and I want to spend time on our relationships again this year, a lot more, rather than kind of get it so spread out that we kind of get lost in that. I want some communication with us and our relationships rather than just kind of mere execution and talking about stuff. That's important for me for this year. Okay?
I know we look forward to that.
Say it again?
I said we look forward to that too.
Good, good. You guys are a blessing to me, and I can tell you I pray for you guys regularly. You guys are on my prayer list. So if there's ever anything that Mark and Ann or I or Melinda we can pray about for you guys, please let us know. Whether it can be personal, camp related, it can be leadership related. Please know that I lift you up, and we lift you up because we want God to bless what you're doing and what He's using you to do. Because you affect the life of the church. That's a gift. Affecting the lives of others. So thank you for all that you guys do. We're gonna wrap up here. I would like to ask Marty if you would close for us tonight. Would you mind?
I'd be happy to. Let's pray.
We asked Marty to open. Did we ask Marty to open?
Mark, open.
Are you ready?
Yep.
All right, let's pray. Father in heaven, it's a great thing to be able to work with staff members and youth campers. It's such a wonderful blessing in our church and around the country, not only in our camp programs, but other denominations and their camps. It must put a lot of joy in your heart to see this type of ministry. And we're grateful to be a part. We ask your continued guidance now on our plans and our preparations, on our leadership in GenMin, that you would just direct what we do and what's being planned for the summit, that you would encourage and strengthen the relationship among us all. We're just so grateful for it all. We just commit it all to you. It is your work, Jesus, and we're privileged to participate with you. Thank you for it in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you all. I love you and I appreciate you, and I praise God for you. And thank you, Mark and Ann, for your hard work. Melinda, for all the stuff behind the scenes that most people don't know you're doing. Thank you for each of the camp directors. For those of you who weren't able to be on the call, we missed you, and we look forward to seeing you guys in another month or two. All right?
Sounds great. Take care.